Hi everyone, I'm Kennan from Cars and Bids, and today we're talking about this, the 2015 Ferrari 458 Speciale A. In today's video, we're going to be looking at a general overview of this car, talking about where it fits into Ferrari's past. Then we're going to get nerdy and talk about some of the technical details of this car, and then we're going to take it for a drive. And with that, let's get started. Before I get going, big news, this 458 Speciale A is currently for sale, being auctioned live on Cars and Bids. This is an incredibly unique spec with some desirable factory touches and a lot of factory equipment, such as a two-tone stripe, a gray Alcantara interior, and carbon fiber everywhere. It also touts just under 5,000 miles. And so, after you watch this video, click the link in the description below where you can go into the live auction of this 458, where you can bid on it and buy it only on Cars and Bids. We begin by talking about the general history of the 458 and where it fits into Ferrari's lineage. This is the continuation of the V8 mid-engine sports car, which began in the late 1970s for Ferrari with the 308, the famous Magnum PI car. That was replaced by the 328 in the late 80s, which itself was replaced by the 348 with the Testarossa side strakes. That was then replaced in the 1990s by the F355, my personal favorite. That was replaced in 1999 by the 360, which was much more rounded and modern looking, and that itself was replaced by the F430, which shared the same platform. And then in 2009, that car was replaced by the 458. In addition to having a V8 sports car line, Ferrari introduced a lightweight track-focused car in 2003 with the 360 Challenge Stradale. Its whole purpose was just that, built to be focused on the track and more hardcore driving. This was a relatively successful car for Ferrari, and they replaced that with the 430 Scuderia. Again, the focus here was lightweight, high-performance, stripped-out track driving. Interestingly though, Ferrari then added the 16M version of the 430 Scuderia to the range, a convertible version of the hardcore track-going car. And standing atop of this Ferrari V8 lineage is the 458 Speciale Aperta, and it's really special for a specific reason: its engine. Yes, the engine. We have to talk about this car's engine. The 458 Speciale Aperta marks the end of an era for Ferrari, as it was the last naturally aspirated, non-hybrid V8 to come in the company's history. Up until this point, all of the V8 mid-engine sports cars used naturally aspirated power. The only forced induction cars in the company's history were the 288 GTO, which looks absolutely gorgeous, and the iconic F40. After this car, Ferrari would start using turbochargers, and things seem to be continuing to trend that way, even as they add hybrid power. But this was the last car to be offered with an NA engine and no hybrid assistance. This engine is special not just because it marks the end of an era for Ferrari, but they also threw all of their technological know-how at it at the time. They revised things like the pistons, the rod bearing design to make everything lighter, and they revised the crankshaft and induction system to reduce this engine's weight by 17.6 pounds. Now that might not sound like a lot, but on a car that revs to 9,000 and has a focus on being lightweight and high performance, that's a ton. The compression ratio of this engine also rose to 14:1, a really high figure in an engine like this. And that meant that this car made about 600 horsepower and approximately 400 foot-pounds of torque. Out of a 4.5-liter engine, that's still impressive by today's standards. In order to accentuate its performance even more, Ferrari focused on getting the curb weight as low as possible. This car only has a curb weight of about 3,200 pounds, which is impressive by modern standards. What's even more impressive is that it only weighs about 100 pounds more than the coupe version of this car, despite having motors to move the top and extra strengthening beams for structural rigidity. Ferrari's design brief was focused on lightweight with this car, and that's most apparent when you step inside the interior. And stepping into the 458 Speciale Aperta, it is a smattering of carbon fiber and Alcantara. The stuff is everywhere in this car, and again, Ferrari was focused on lightweight materials to keep the curb weight of this car down. They were so focused on it that they removed the floor mats. That's right, you have these bare metal floors with no floor mats on them because Ferrari was so strict about weight savings. But you have air conditioning and you have a radio and you have those kind of creature comforts in this car. So you're not totally devoid of any luxuries in here, but it is pretty Spartan. Another aspect of this interior that makes it clear Ferrari was focused on low weight is the lack of a glove box. That's right, there's no storage there where it normally would be found. Instead, Ferrari gives you these nets on the door panels where you can tuck your sunglasses or something like that just into the door. They also give you these nets located behind the seats, so if you needed to store anything, you could tuck it into one of these nets and it would stay in place as you drive around in your Speciale Aperta. Another interesting touch on the interior of this car is the plaque located between the two seats. It's the International Engine of the Year for 2014, which Ferrari was very proud of with this engine. It also shows that Ferrari won in 2011 and 2012, but not in 2013. And who won in that year, you might ask? Well, it was Ferrari. They won with the F12. But they wanted to stay focused on the V8 for this car, so they only outlined the years in which the V8 for the 458 won. In addition to being focused on a great engine and low curb weight, Ferrari was also really keen to use as much technology in this car as possible. And one of the features they introduced was side slip angle control. This is activated when you turn the Manettino switch to the race or CT off position, and it allows the car to slide a little bit more than normal so you can look like a hero when you drive your 458, but it will help you to avoid crashing. And as we sit here in the interior of this car, it's very obvious that it's a convertible. That's one of the unique features of the Aperta version of the Speciale. Ferrari was very proud of it being a convertible, and they marketed this car as having a top that would go up and down in 14 seconds. With the top down, you can enjoy the beautiful sunshine and listen to the sound of that glorious V8, but with the top up, the car returns to its most aerodynamic form. And of course, I know I like to watch videos of these cars' tops going up and down, and so here you go, the 458's top going up. And speaking of aerodynamics, we have to talk about the Aero on this car as it's very advanced. It has a lot of changes over the standard 458, and some of the most obvious changes are located in the front. You have this special hood with these cutouts to allow the air to flow more smoothly over the car and generate downforce on the front, but you also have these vents on the front bumper that kind of travel up the fender next to the headlights to again generate more downforce in this area. I can't imagine how expensive that bumper is, but we'll move on. On the side of this car, it has these shark fins, which are a distinctive design feature of this car. It helps clean up the aero down the side and create a little bit more downforce in this particular area. Moving to the rear of the car, of course, you have this gigantic rear diffuser, which helps accelerate the airflow out the back of the car and push the 458 into the ground as you travel along. All of these changes are relatively obvious, but Ferrari has hidden some special changes with their active aerodynamics. Located in the front bumper, you have these two flaps that open at high speed, about 106 miles an hour. They take away some of the cooling of this car, but they allow it to generate more downforce in the front end at high speed. You also have these flaps located in the rear of the car that deploy at about 130 miles an hour to give this car even more downforce as you go faster in the 458. Now that you're traveling about 140 miles an hour, you're going to need to slow down at some point, and Ferrari has you covered with these amazing brakes. They developed these in conjunction with the LaFerrari using very lightweight composite materials with a focus on, again, lightweight, but also making sure that you had the stopping power that was adequate for a car both on road and on track. All of these changes meant that this car could stop 8% better than the 458 Spider, which already had excellent stopping performance. All of these changes mean that this is a very special car. It's made even more special by the fact that Ferrari only reports having made about 499 of these. So they really created the ultimate track-focused, hardcore car, but so few people actually use them that way. They use this sort of car to flex on people in Beverly Hills. And that's exactly what we're going to do. A quick lap of Beverly Hills in the 458 Speciale Aperta. Now, admittedly, I'm not a super flashy guy, so this is like the most anti-Kennan thing I could possibly be doing, but it is very cool, and I really love this car. I'm really into naturally aspirated cars, and this is really peak Ferrari for naturally aspirated cars. Not to mention, it's just a generally excellent car to drive. I'm very fortunate that I've spent a lot of seat time in 458s over the years. I worked for an exotic car dealership before I worked for Cars and Bids. And so I've driven a lot of these cars, but never a Speciale, and definitely not a Speciale Aperta. These are incredibly expensive cars for all the reasons that I outlined, but they're also incredibly rare. Ferrari reports only having made about 499 of these. So even here in Beverly Hills, seeing one of these driving around is not a common sight. Again, obviously I can't really get up this car too much as, you know, we're in Beverly Hills and I don't want to get arrested and it's not my car, but even just little hints like that, it's so impressive. Now, of course, this car is also kind of like antithetical to the idea of a low weight, track focused car, because of course it's a convertible. And so this car is meant to be enjoyed kind of just driving around top down in beautiful California sunshine. And honestly, I think there is an appeal to that. I think that being able to hear this engine and experience the last naturally aspirated V8 ever made by Ferrari, I mean, it's so special and it really needs to be celebrated. And so having a convertible and being a little bit closer to that sound is really special. It also has this rear window that's here. So even with the top up, you can still get down and experience that engine music, as Ferrari likes to say. I'm really conscientious about how expensive this car is. This is a very expensive car. And so you're just kind of nervous about it, but like it drives like a normal 458 in a lot of ways, at least at low speed. So it's very usable still, and it's a shame in a way that these are so expensive now because people just, it means they get tucked away in collections, never driven. This one has just shy of 5,000 miles on it at 4,920 at this exact moment. And you know, it'll probably stay that way for the foreseeable future. I don't see somebody necessarily driving this car a whole bunch. That's just what these cars have become. They become collector's items. But if you're like a collector and you want the ultimate really special version of what already is an excellent and special sports car, boy, it is really hard to argue with one of these. This is just such a, it's just so cool. Oh, and that sound, oh, the engine sounds so lovely. All right, here we go, turning right on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills in a 458 Speciale Aperta. What a special experience this is. What a car. Even just hearing that engine just echoing off of things is so special, even at low speed. You know, a lot of newer Ferraris, man, people taking pictures, wow, it's crazy. You know, one of the things I've noticed about this car driving it around is that it really makes you feel special. A lot of the newer Ferraris kind of drive like normal cars, and this one has some of those elements, but it just feels special, and it makes you feel that way too. And I think that's something that is really important to note with this car. It is special for a lot of historical reasons, but it's also an inherently deeply special car. And I can't get over the number of people who are taking pictures of it as I'm driving by. But you really don't see these that often. They're so rare. Nobody drives them anyway. So it's just an incredible, I would lose my mind if I saw somebody just driving around in a 458 Speciale Aperta on a beautiful, whatever today is, Tuesday. Oh. That's cool. I like making people's day like that. It's not my car, but hey, when a kid asks you for a rev in a 458 Speciale Aperta, you do it. I have to say, everything in this car still feels pretty modern too. Ferraris were laid out like the 458 for a really long time, so it still feels like this car still feels bang up to date. The transmission is amazing how fast it is and how it's so good at handling just low speed driving. A lot of these transmissions are really jerky and kind of jolt you around and things like that. Not this one. This is very smooth, but I gotta say, like, when you really want some punch, like when you start to go after it and just those quick shifts, it delivers that still. It may be a dual clutch, but it has character to it. Man. Oh, that sound. I'm glad I got one little squeeze of the throttle. It's just so, oh man, that's good. I wish I could do that again. It's so enjoyable to do. Woo! What a sound this car makes. And that is the Ferrari 458 Speciale A. As the name suggests, this is a molto speciale car, touting all of the exciting high-performance details from the 458 Speciale, but adding the top-down thrills of a convertible driving experience. This is also the last naturally aspirated non-hybrid V8 ever to come from Ferrari, and that in itself makes it a unique piece of automotive history. And so, if you've been looking to add a car like this to your collection, click the link in the description below where you can bid on this one and buy it only on Cars and Bids. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye!